just letting me know, can you hear me? Can you see me? Is it all working okay? And hopefully I've pressed every button and it's working. Can you just let me know? Click A, number one. Everyone's, yes, all good. Lisa, hey, Lisa. Wow. Bernard, how are you, mate? Loud and clear. Perfect. If you were here last week, a few of you were, some of you weren't, but we had a little bit of a hiccup, and I will go into it a little bit later. But I just want to make sure that everything's working and everything is on board because all of this webinar stuff it's new to me. But I'm really excited to have you all here. Thank you all for jumping on board. It's going to be I'm so excited. I'm so pumped. I was a little bit nervous earlier on today, but then I realized that the kind of the value and the knowledge and what I'm going to be doing here this evening, I am pumped and I am excited. I've got 17 years of a career industry to bring to you. Stacey, let's go. I love the energy. Thank you so, so much. Um, we're going to be here for, I'm not too sure how long it's going to go on for. We did say 90 minutes. Let's just run with it. Let's just roll with it and see what happens. I really want to be this session to be interactive as well. So we're going to have a Q&A at the end, but I'm also going to be jumping on the chat and letting me know, or you guys can let me know where you're, if you've got any questions, and I'm more than happy to sort of go in and check them as we go. Right, what are we, 7:01? We've got quite a few people on, which is very, very exciting. Thank you all for joining me. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I've got a few slides that we are going to run through to start with. Bear with me. Everything's going to sort of make sense. And if you wouldn't mind letting me know if everybody can see once I've shared the screen and it's all working for everybody and everyone can see the screen okay? Okay, perfect. Let's go. All good. Yep, you can all see the screen. Thank you very much. So, um, yeah, here we are, Quadrant Formula. I'm going to walk you through why this was created, but it is refined by 15 years as a selling agent. Before we start, actually, just on this point, who here knows who I am and has seen me before or interacted with me in the last 2 or 3 months, and who here has just seen a Facebook ad pop up and now they're just magically here? Click a 1 if you've known me and you kind of know a little bit about me and my background. Number 2 if you've just seen a Facebook ad, and here you are. Where are we in the chat? Right, okay, quite a few newcomers. Welcome. Well, I'm going to run through a little bit about my background and what we do or what I have done. And Facebook, yeah, thank you very much. And a little bit about my background is opposed to the buying and selling industry and that kind of stuff. So look, I won't hold you up any longer. Let's get into it. I'm just a selling agent. I am just a selling agent, or I should say a former selling agent. And I'm just a buyer's agent. So as you can see here tonight, there's no flash studio. As a lot of us learned last week, I am new to this. In terms of putting on webinars, Facebook ads, posts, and things like that, it's all very new to me. There's not going to be any flash slides. There's not any flash lighting. There's no flash camera here. I'm literally just on my laptop and I'm literally just on my mic. So everything that comes from me tonight is just literally from my background. I'm not a speaker, so appreciate obviously if you could be a little bit interactive and help me out here, and yeah, we can roll through this together. I just want to throw out a disclaimer before we start. The formula that we're about to run through with yourselves today, you're not going to secure every single deal. If you thought you were going to jump on this webinar and there was going to be a secret sauce or a silver bullet that is just magically going to see you secure every single offer that you go for, this isn't for you. But what we can do and what I have done throughout my buyer's agent career is increase the conversion rate. Increase the conversion rate so that we go from, if we're missing 2 or 3 or 4 properties for a client, we can bring that down to 1 or 2. And there are systems and there are strategies that we put in place that's going to help us move forward or move the needle forward to increasing those offer attempts, if you will. So we're not going to secure every deal, but you knew that anyway. But what I would like to say is be open-minded. I know a lot of you here have been a BA for 6, 12, 18 months, 2 years. Some of you even maybe 3 or 4 years. Let's have an open mind. The formula that I teach and the people that I've been speaking with, and a lot of you here tonight are very experienced in putting deals together. Everyone can everyone can put a deal together. Everybody here in this room has put at least one deal together, and you know how to buy property, right? I'm not here to try and tell you how to buy a property, but there are different levels that we can get to try and, as I mentioned, increase those conversions and go to the next step. I saw something really interesting. It was a very successful personal trainer recently, and it was a story on his Instagram. And he drives around in Lamborghinis and things like that. So very successful in what he does. And he said, one of the things that when I was a PT moving forward, I was in the gym with about 5 other PTs, and we had people around us. We had mentors. We had the systems around us that we could go to and that we could ask for help just to get to one extra little step. And he said he was the only person who reached out to these resources, that asked for support, that asked for help. Now, everyone in the gym knew how to train a person. They knew they had done their license or certificate or whatever you need to do to be a personal trainer. Everybody in that gym understood and knew how to be a personal trainer. It was whether they wanted to take it to the next level and take it to the next step and be open. Be open to listening to different people, different advice, and having those support systems around you. So what I really want to ask is tonight, just be open, and you will get results. You will get to that next step that's just going to make things slightly easier for you. If you even get one thing from tonight that you can implement into your business, one thing, I'm sure you'll agree that it's been an hour or 90 minutes well spent, right? One thing that's going to help increase your deal conversions. And that's what I'm here to try and create for you tonight. I promise you will increase your conversion rate. The reason why I can make that claim, obviously there's no guarantees or anything like that. I mean, at the end of the day, it is up to you guys if you decide to implement and what you work on. But I will promise you that if you're open, we will be able to increase your conversion rate. I got to about 7 deals per month in my BA career. And it was just simply because I applied these formulas. And it wasn't because I read a book or jumped onto one hour course or listened to a podcast. It was because I was able to continually repeat those reps and get the experience, which is what you kind of do as a personal trainer, right? When you train somebody, you it's repeated reps with support with somebody. So yeah, let's move forward now that we've got the disclaimer out of the way. I'm going to try and make it fun. So for the next hour, I'm going to try and make it fun, ask questions. I will be popping into the chat. So obviously the quadrant, you probably already realized there's 4 pillars that we are going to run through that is going to help you successfully increase your offer attempts. At the end of each one or during each one, if you've got any questions or you want to pop it in the chat, I will just stop after each one and I will go into the chat just to see if there's any questions there, rather than, saving everything until the end. So it will be fun. Ask questions. Let's make it interactive. It will be fast paced. There's a lot that I want to get through tonight, like a lot that I want to get through tonight. It might be a little bit overwhelming. I hope you've all got your pen and paper down by your side. It may be a little bit overwhelming because there's going to be so many different things that maybe a lot of you already know. As I said, we're not inventing the wheel. A lot of you already experienced, but there's going to be some things that you might not have understood or known before. Don't try and implement everything. I used to go to events and seminars and webinars, and I'd have my pen and paper, and I'd be the one that would make pages and pages and pages of notes. And then I'd look at them the next day and I'll just go, I need a coffee. I can't handle this. I need a coffee. And then I'd go out and I'd sit around and I'd procrastinate and I'll do all these things. And it just wouldn't work for me. So don't try and implement everything today. I will be sharing a proven process. The process and the formula that I've stuck to when I was buying properties, I was consistently able to, for a whole 12 months, purchase a minimum of 7 properties every single month. So it was over 100 in a calendar year. It's a proven process. And I'm going to show you how and why that works. If you stick around till the end, so as I mentioned, I'm just an agent. I'm not a webinar expert or anything like that, but I have been told people will drop out through the event. I get it. I understand that. So they said at the beginning, you need to put something in there that's going to keep people till the end. So I've been learning a little bit about webinars and things like that and how they work. So if you stick around to the end, there is a free opportunity to work one-on-one with me, where we're in your business. So for me, when I was a BA, after 17 years in the industry, 15 years as a selling agent, over 1,600 transactions, I still loved the fact that I was able to pick up the phone to a colleague of mine who is another BA, similar experience level, and say, hey, I'm in the middle of this negotiation. This is what the agent has done. This is what I plan to do. What would you do in this situation? And I would be open to getting advice, because at the end of the day, we're working for our clients. We want to make sure, like even I was second guessing, this is the move that I'm going to make, but let me just run it past someone. Having somebody in your corner is critical. And I'm sure a lot of you here tonight that I have been speaking with, you're independent. You run your own businesses. You've done your license and you run your own independent businesses. And there's others that have an office full of BAs and people around them that they can bounce ideas off. So individual, put it in the chat. Like, number one, do you run your own individual business? Or number two, are you in an office where you already have support? Let's have a look what we've got here. One. Yeah, one. Yeah. A lot of people that I've been speaking with literally just have their own independent offices. And for me personally, I just loved having the opportunity just to pick up the phone and just have somebody support me. So for a whole quarter, for a whole 3 months, I am offering that free. And that's in weekly sessions, as well as a bunch of other stuff. It's personalized support. So we can run through role plays with yourself. I find a lot of BAs love running through role plays. I'm having this conversation with the agent. Let's try and improve that conversation so that we can get a little bit further. Negotiation performance reviews. I love listening to other people's phone calls. I've worked with a couple of BAs recently who have been able to record their phone calls to the selling agents for me. They have asked for permission. We haven't done anything untoward or anything like that. And we have picked out areas of their phone call that can be improved. We've got weekly sessions, weekly one-on-one sessions. It is personalized, and we will put that in place for 3 months. It was only for a month, but then I thought, as I mentioned to yourself, you don't get good at anything by listening to one podcast, one book or anything like that. It takes reps to really get great at something. So we put that in place for 3 months, and there's an opportunity at the end of that webinar to have that and to work with me. But you're just a selling agent. I was a former selling agent. So some of you may be asking now, how are you going to help? How is a selling agent going to help me improve my buyer's agency business? That is a great question. Let me try and explain. When you're a selling agent, well, it's the same game. We're all playing the same game. We're just on different teams. And when there's different teams, there's different rules, right? There's different tactics. There's different plays. And if you play, let's use the analogy, you're a footy team. If you play for the Brisbane Broncos all of your career, you will only see one perspective. You will only have one manager, one trainer, one team talk, one training, all of you only have one perspective. When I was a selling agent, I had a full overview of, bearing in mind I was a selling agent for 15 years, both in the UK and Australia. I had a full overview of what the buyers were doing, what worked. I must have met thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of buyers over my 17 years. I was able to get a full overview of how they operated, what were their habits, what were their behaviors, what stood out for me, who I wanted to work with and who I didn't want to work with. And when we're in the business of being a buyer's agent, we only really have one perspective, and that's the buyer that we're working with. Also, from the selling side of things, I played by a different rule book. We had different tactics. We had different tactics and we had different plays. And if you're playing for the Gold Coast Titans, you will never know what the Brisbane Broncos plays are. So it makes it harder to beat. I done everything ethically when I was a selling agent, but at the end of the day, my clients, my sellers, were paying me a pretty hefty fee to get them the best possible price for them. That was what I was paid to do. And there were secrets. They were tactics. They were psychological games and tricks that we used to. We've all been in the environment for a while now. We know that there's games and tricks that everything can be played. Some are unethical, unfortunately, that they are in the industry, both selling and buyers agents. But then there are just simply agents that have trained. The same as a footy team. If you're Brisbane Broncos or Titans, you train to be better than the others. And a lot of selling agents train very, very regularly. But let me ask you this, the football analogy, or going back to it, because I know Aussies love their footy. If I was playing for the Brisbane Broncos for the last 15 years, I sat in every single dressing room, every single training room. I looked at every single play and every single tactic. And then I transferred over to the Gold Coast Titans. And the next season, I was sitting in the changing rooms of the Gold Coast Titans. And the next game coming up was the Brisbane Broncos, a team that I had played with for 15 years. Do you think the manager and the players in the dressing room of the Gold Coast Titans would be asking me about how they play? What are their tactics? What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? Because automatically, when I'm now at the Gold Coast Titans, I've got the advantage because I know how the Broncos play. I know how they operate, and that gives me the edge. And that is exactly what I noticed as soon as I went over into the buyer's agent space. I knew the exact tactics and the conversations that the selling agents were having to me. And I pulled so many of them up in terms of we were going to auction on this one property in South Australia. And I remember it clearly. It was an auction property. And I wanted to transact on this property prior to auction. And I knew that there was going to be a little bit of competition on auction day. And I thought we need to get this one, secure this one prior to. And played everything strategically, how I always play it, put it in an offer prior to auction. And the selling agent came back to me. We had a really good relationship. The selling agent came back to me. She was a Ray White agent. So I was a Ray White agent for 12 years. And the selling agent came back to me and she said, Colin, the owners really want to thank you for your offer. They feel that it's an exciting offer. However, based on their situation and circumstances, they do need to proceed to auction. And they have stressed how much they would really love to see you there on the day, because if we're at that level on the day, we've got a pretty good opportunity of getting this done for you. And I had to give a little chuckle, a little giggle to myself, because I have sat in hundreds of auction training rooms, and that exact quote was up on the screen or up on the slide. We really want to thank you for your offers. The sellers are so excited to work with you. Unfortunately, their situation and circumstances are as such that they need to proceed all the way to auction. I hope you can understand. However, if we're there at that level on the day and you are the highest bidder, we're going to have a contract that created an emotion. So we had an open and honest conversation, me and the agent, me and the selling agent. And I said, look, I was a selling agent for 15 years. I sat in the same Ray White auction training rooms as you did. I just want to let you know that we're not going to be there on auction day. We've put our best foot forward. There's absolutely no point in us being there on auction day, because we are not going to spend the next 2 weeks now in this grey area of not really knowing where we're at or what we're going to do. So respectfully, we're going to step to one side and we're going to wish you and your sellers all the very best. And then I let her know that I was a selling agent and I was an auction agent as well. So she said, okay, so you're not going to be there on auction day? I said, no. Called her out. She rang me back 10 minutes later. She said, Colin, your offer's been accepted and the auction's been cancelled. It was such a good feeling just knowing what was going on the other side and having a clear picture of the conversations at that point that she would have been having with her sellers. And we were able to get the job done. So when people say, but you're just a selling agent, that is why I am here and you are here. And I'm excited that we're here and that you can learn from my experiences as a selling agent for the last 15 years. Does that make sense? We play the same game, but we're just on different teams, and different teams have different plays and different tactics. Just going to jump into the chat here. Yeah, everyone makes things. Thanks, Lisa. All right, let's move on. 7 deals a month. As a buyer's agent, where I was able to get to, as I just mentioned. How do we get there? What's the steps? What's the process? Now, I hear and I talk to a lot of buyer's agents, and they say, Colin, the market's bound to soften. The market's bound to soften. Demand is going to decrease, and that is when my offer conversions will be able to increase. Guys, how many of you were at open homes on the weekend? Let's pop it in the chat. How many of you were at open homes on the weekend and you were competing with and saw 20 buyers at one of your open homes? How many of you had that? 20 buyers. Yes, so many people, so many people. It's the normal. It's the new norm. It's the new norm. When I was a selling agent, when I was, 3 or 4 buyers was good. If we went back to our sellers and we said, yep, we had 5 buyers come through our property, we had a good day. But the new normal is here. The market at those kind of levels is not going to save us in 2026. It's not. Unless we can secure every single property, which actually I've been speaking with a lot of buyers agents, and I'm hearing stories about a very high percentage, even as much as like 50 or 60% of their transactions are off market, and they're eliminating the competition, which is fantastic. But there's still a certain element of properties that are going to be on market. And when they're on market, we are in competition. We're not going to, that is the new normal. It is here to stay. So in 2026, we need to get sharper at putting the deal together, because meeting 5 buyers at the offer table is normal. I live on the Gold Coast. That is normal. And from the consensus that I'm hearing in other states and other suburbs, it is the same as well. I also hear things like, well, Colin, if I just make more offers on a Saturday afternoon, that's all I have to do. I put 3 offers to the agents at the open homes on a Saturday afternoon. Surely one of them's got to stick, right? If I do that for the next 2 to 3 weeks, that's 9 offers that I make over the next 3 weeks. Surely one of them's got to stick. How's that working out for you? Okay, here's the deal. There's no one way to buy property. Every negotiation, every property, every seller, every situation, every selling agent is going to be different. You can use that and you may land one or two, but the probability and the ratio is low. And let me tell you why. If you're making 3 offers on a Saturday afternoon, you're 33% in each bucket. Selling agents smell that. And there's probably somebody that's gone through that open home or they're sitting at the offer table with you and they're 100%. They're able to show that through their communication and through their questioning. The selling agents can smell if you're only half in it or if you're 100% in it. And they're trying to pick the buyer for their sellers. That's going to be the easiest buyer to deal with and the lowest risk. So although that might work a couple of times, it is hope. Let me just throw a few offers on the table on a Saturday afternoon. One of them's got to stick, right? I had a client say that to me once. One of them's got to stick. Yeah, if you throw 100 offers, one of them's going to stick. But 100 offers is a lot of work, especially if you're doing the legwork prior to. Like if you're making 3 offers on a Saturday afternoon, making the offer is a lot of work, a lot of research. We've got to do our due diligence, right? We've got to, maybe I've done our building and pest, flood zones, environmental overlays, whatever research we do on homes. Or we just simply don't do that research and then we're just making the offers and then worrying about it later. Again, we're only 30% in each bucket. We're not giving it our all. And I used to say to my clients, and everyone's different, if we came across 2 or 3 properties on the weekend that we got excited about buying, I would say, let's go into one bucket. We've got a much better chance of securing the North Star, the one that we want, if we're 100% in, because we've already primed selling agents and we've already worked towards that, than if we're just going to be putting an offer in on 3 properties. And the other thing I keep hearing is, Colin, I'll just bring on an assistant. It's fine. Like if I've got to see 10 open homes on the weekend, there's only one of me. I can't do all 10. I'll just bring on an assistant and they'll do 5 and I'll be able to do 5. That's great if you're in that position where your income supports that. I'm a strong believer in always putting on an assistant or always putting on help before you actually need it. When I was a selling agent, my principals used to drum that into me. Before you get too busy and before you get to capacity, take on and bring on an assistant. They're going to make your life easy. But the reality is we need to be doing consistently, and everyone's going to be different here. But we need to, I would want to be comfortably doing between 30 and 40,000 every single month before I thought about bringing on an assistant. And I want to be doing that consistently for at least a quarter. If we're doing that, it's an option. But a lot of the times to get to these kind of levels, it's just as simple as sharpening the sword. Sharpening the sword, because when we miss out on offers and when we miss out on deals, we're just going into repeat work. We're just going into repeat work because then we get out into work, into the office on a Monday morning, and we've got to do the same thing over again for the same client. Whereas if we're able to secure the deal that they're looking to secure, we're able to take our time over to the next client and we're able to build and scale our business. I see that in 2026 as the only way to get in ahead. The market's not going to change. There are always going to be buyers out there that are going to be 100% focused at the offer table. And if you're only 30%, the agents will smell. I used to smell that all the time when an offer came in, when a buyer was really serious, when they really wanted this, and when somebody was just throwing an offer at me. And putting on an assistant. So we can see here how one client can swallow a whole month or even 2. And when they do that, Sometimes, okay, here's the thing. This isn't all about time. I am not here to, our job is to get the client on our books and off our books as quickly as possible. That's not what I'm saying. Our job is to do the best thing we possibly can do by those clients. So it's not all about time. We can do everything perfect and still have a client on our books for 3 months. They might be looking for something very specific and it might not come up. So I just want to be clear, this isn't about a quick transaction and getting the client in and out. It's about making the best use of our time and stopping unnecessary work. Let me know if you can increase your offer attempts. Will that free up more of your time for prospecting or for working with other clients? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Would that help? If you're able to transact and increase your offer attempts, some of you might already have great offer attempts. And when I say offer attempts, we're working with one client. And sometimes, we might have 1 or 2 attempts. And then the next fortnight or the next 3 weeks, then we're looking for searching for another property. And then like a lot of you will probably already have pretty good offer attempts. But if we're spending and in different areas, like I know that places like Perth, are very demanding and very challenging. And I was speaking to a BA in Perth only 2 weeks ago, 7 offer attempts for one client, 7. And that's just because the demand was so high. But when you're able to sharpen your skills, you can bring that down. And when you're able to bring that down to 3 or 4, if you're working at 7, that is going to be able to free up more of your time to work with other clients and be able to scale your business. And that is what we are here to do today. I was going to say something else then, but I completely forgotten. I'm in the moment. I'm in the zone. The quadrant, why it exists and what is it? Okay. I have been planning this webinar for months. It first started off with a webinar in November. And the webinar was going to be called the Multiple Offers Mastery. Because when I started to connect with a lot of BAs around, first question I asked was, what are the challenges out there? What are we experiencing out there in the market? I wanted to make sure that I was able to bring value to real-time challenges that are happening in the market at the moment. The number one challenge that I'm finding, or that BAs are talking about, is leads, trying to generate leads. And the second challenge was transacting and getting the lead out on the other end because of the demand. If you were a buyer's agent 5 years ago, you wouldn't be having this problem. You'd be the only offer on the table and the only buyer that wanted the property. But as we've established, those days are gone. And I don't know if they're ever going to come back. I think, the way that Australia is growing and the way things are going at the moment, I think we're always going to see a high demand for property, and especially in high growth areas such as Brisbane and the Gold Coast. I'm happy to hear your thoughts. If you want to share your thoughts, let me know in the chat. But this webinar was going to be called the Multiple Offer Mastery. And we were going to go through all of the different multiple offer situations like best and finals. We've got the Dutch auction. We've got the online portals. We've got auctions. There are so many different ways that an agent will work a multiple offer situation. And we were going to go through all of those. And then through deeper conversations, I was starting to uncover, well, I was having conversations with other agents, and they were saying, well, Colin, I've looked at everything you've said, and I've done my very best, and I know all of the offer situations, and I understand all of the games the agents play, but I still haven't been successful. It's like, okay, well, why haven't you been successful? Oh, because the property sold for a lot more money than what my clients have. Okay. Is this a regular occurrence? And that's always ask for feedback. Who asks for feedback? If you've missed a property, who asks for feedback? Ring the agent up or send them a text and saying, hey, great job. Really enjoyed working with you. We've been unsuccessful this time. Hey, do you mind me asking? Are you able to shed a bit of light or feedback? Like, why did we miss out on this property? I think that's a great line if we want to improve our business. Asking for feedback when we've missed the property. Because I was speaking to these agents. We've got a few people in the chat there. I'll go back to it. And I was speaking to a few agents, and they said, well, the properties were just selling for more money than what my clients had. Okay, is this a consistent thing? Because if this is something that's coming up on a regular basis, then it doesn't matter how knowledgeable we are around the multiple offer situation. It doesn't matter how well we understand the multiple offer situation. It doesn't matter how well we understand the tactics and whether the agent's lying or not. If we're taking our clients into a $1.4 million property with a budget of 1.1, we've got no hope in hell. Doesn't matter how skilled we are at the offer table. We're not going to get that done. So then I had to take it back a step. And it goes into sort of qualifying the property. Now, we might all think, Colin, qualifying a property is easy. Yes, there are different levels. And what I've noticed recently, I was speaking to one BA recently, and this was an actual situation only 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the property ended up selling for 1.4 million, and the agents guided it at 1.1. We've all heard of underquoting. We've all heard of no price guides. We've all heard of fairy ranges. And it's about getting to the deeper level and getting the buy-in from the agent. And I'm going to talk you through that today about how to really qualify the property. Because one of the biggest things that I used to really enjoy doing was having that conversation with the agent, asking my questions, finding out what I needs to find out, and then putting the phone down and crossing a line through that property and saying, I've just freed up an inspection time on Saturday so that I'm able to go and see a property that I've actually got a chance of buying. I've dug beyond the surface level range or guide or whatever the agent wants to give me, and I've got the buy-in. So then I can confidently cross that property off my list. Because if that property stays on my list, and I'm generally going out to see a $1.4 million property with a budget of 1.1, I'm putting in an offer. I'm doing my homework and research. I'm doing my due diligence. That's a lot of time. So then I realized we need to get clearer on the property and qualifying the property. And then I took it back another step. And it was when I was a selling agent, I used to speak to many buyers and many buyers agents. And a lot of the time, who I wanted to work with simply came down to who I liked, who I was able to give intel to, who I wanted to share information with to give them a little bit of an extra step. And that all came down to communication. And we're going to talk in that part of the quadrant about the communication. And then I took it back a step. I was speaking to a buyer's agent literally, and this is what made the quadrant only about a month ago. I was speaking to a buyer's agent in Brisbane, and he said, Colin, I've been searching for this buyer for the past 8 months now. 8 months. And he said, I don't know what to do. We're going to talk through the buyer brief and how we're able to structure the brief to be focused and for it to be tight so that we're not spending 8 months searching for property for these clients that are just not going to be, that they're just not going to buy. A lot of people that I speak to are really awesome in 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 of these areas, but it's when all 4 come together. It's a powerful equation. You can be great at communication and great at qualifying properly, but if you don't really understand the games and the systems when it comes to the multiple offer situation and best in the finals and how to position your buyer, the communication and property qualification really goes out the window. You might get a little bit here or there. It's when all 4 come together. It's a powerful formula. It's a powerful formula. So let's get into it. Your buyer's brief. It sounds really simple, right? Colin, I know how to put a buyer's brief together. We're probably going to go a bit over time. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I just want to make sure that we're getting everything across and there's some really good value being shared here. So I hope you don't mind. If the buyer brief is off, then the whole system after that just becomes chaotic. I have worked with buyers myself, and I have worked with those buyer briefs where they come to you and they just really don't know. Well, this is why they've come to you, right? Because they've said, look, Colin, I've been searching for the last 8 months. I don't know what's wrong. I've been making offers. Well, what are you looking for? Oh, we're looking in 5 or 6 or 7 different suburbs. We can spend anything between 1.3 and $3 million. And, you know, it can be a renovated property. There's no focus. There's no intent. It's not tight. There's nothing behind it. So If we don't get this process right, we can spend months searching for the wrong property and then getting to the offer table, doing all of our homework and research on due diligence on a property, and the buyer just not is not able to pull the trigger. We've all worked with them. I've worked with them before. They're a pain in the ass. You know the ones I mean. This is how I like to do it. Suburbs one, two, three. Be focused on three suburbs. I felt that if my buyers had too many options, come the time at the offer table, they would always be holding out for hope for a better property or a better suburb. So what I would do is I would say to them, pick three suburbs for me. And it's at this point they say, well, Colin, we've actually got six. Well, pick three, and then we'll sit down and we'll work through it together. Let me know your asset. What are you looking for? House, apartment, or townhouse? Bedrooms, bathrooms, and car. And please let me know your budget. And then I'd sit down with them and we'd have a conversation. And I would say to you, right, what's the North Star here? That's the thing that I would always be focusing on my buyers. What is the North Star? Because if you've got a wide range of suburbs and properties and assets and all this kind of things, we can do all of our homework and research and spend time with this client. And if we don't really know what their North Star is, they're going to be holding out for that North Star. If the client has too many options, they will have too many options at the offer table. Be clear, focused, and watertight. Then we need to make sure it actually exists. I know we all know how to do this. So they've given us their three suburbs, they've given us their price, they've given us their assets. We've all got different ways that we do this. I like to pop into realestate.com when I'm with the client. And that might be a video call or that might be face-to-face. But I sit into realestate.com with the client and I say, great, these are our three suburbs, these are our assets, these are our price points. Let's go into the sold section for the last 3 months and see if the property actually exists. I guarantee 9 times out of 10, your buyer would have never have done this. This is an exercise that is completely new to them because they're always in the listing section. Oh, well, and they're always in the listing section and it gives them hope because of the underquoting. Oh, these properties are coming up within our price range. Go into the sold section and make sure that we understand that they understand that, you know, we need to make sure the property actually exists first. If we type in all of their North Star attributes and we're coming across only 2 sales in the last 3 months, then that's the time we need to be having the conversation with them. And we need to say, hey, what are our compromises here? Let's go for the North Star to begin with, if that's what you really want. But there's a high probability that we might need to make some changes here. Now, you can decide where those changes lie. You might have a bit of a higher budget stuck away somewhere that you haven't told me about. Or you might be able to swap out your 2 bathrooms for 1 bathroom. Or you might be happy going to the sister suburb. Let me know what those compromises are so we actually know. So that we're not wasting too much time. But it's important to have these conversations up front with the buyers. I was working with these buyers last year and they said to me, Colin, we're actually pre-approved to 900, but we only want to spend 800. So we've done the exercise and we went into realestate.com and we said, does it exist at 800? It was very, very slim. Very, very slim. And I said to them, I said, look, let's give us 2 weeks at the North Star. But I want to be having the conversation with you in 2 weeks. If we're not able to come across something that's suitable, it just tells us that that ship's already sailed. I don't want to waste too much time in this because if we're still on the market in 3 or 4 weeks' time, then your price that you're going to have to pay for property is going up because the market's going up. I want to try and protect you from doing that. So I'm only spending 2 weeks with the clients. So having that conversation with them and does it exist? And then as soon as we went to that 900 budget that they wanted to spend, it made things so much easier. And they understood that. Do we share all of the brief with the world? Agree or disagree? And I'm going to show you 2 examples. And there's no right or wrong here. This is how I used to see it from a selling agent's point of view. Your family, a young family looking for a place to call home. Suburb, Broadbeach Waters, Mermaid Beach, Miami, Burleigh Waters, Burleigh Heads, Palm Beach and surrounds. Circa 1.5 to 3 million asset, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2 cars. Waterfront desired open to dry blocks, 500 meters square block. Ideally turnkey, although open to renovations. Non-negotiables, end of a cul-de-sac, solar powered, low set home. I want to know, and there's no right or wrong, what does this brief say about the buyer? Does it say the buyer knows what they want? Or does it say the buyer doesn't have a clue what they want? And this is actually a brief that I took off a buyer's agent recently. So I think we need to be tightening these up. The next brief, property type, house, price 1.4 million, suburbs, Currumbin and Tugun, 4 beds, 2 bath, 2 cars. Let me know. That is number one. That is number two. Now, there's no right or wrong. But when we're putting our buyer briefs out into the marketplace for the selling agents to see, we're doing it for one reason, to try and uncover off-market properties, right? Which one of these two briefs, one or two, is going to generate more off-market opportunities? And there's no right or wrong. Number one or number two. Okay. Probably about 80% two, 20% one. There's no right or wrong when it comes to what you put out in the buyer brief. But if I'm a selling agent and I'm looking at this, I'm thinking chaos. I'm thinking chaos. And I'm thinking that when I come to the offer table with this buyer or with this buyer agent, I'm not comfortable or confident that they're going to make my life easy. Also, a lot of people think the more I put out there, the more suburbs, the more ranges, the more opportunities I'm going to come up against. But our clients only have one North Star. One North Star. So let's look at this brief in particular. So Broadbeach, some of the suburbs are very different. The price range is very different. A 1.5 million dry block in Miami is very different to a 3 million waterfront in Broadbeach. So we do all of our homework and research on a $1.5 million property in Miami on a dry block, because that is part of the buyer's brief. And then we get to the offer table, or we get to the point where we're sending the property over to our clients, or we're spending time trying to uncover off-market opportunities from selling agents. But that property is very different to a $3 million property in Broadbeach on the water, which is 9 times out of 10 going to be that client's North Star. So we've just created a shit ton of work for ourselves, trying to focus and trying to uncover off-market opportunities and speak to the agents in all of these suburbs, in all of these price points, in all of those bedrooms and bathrooms, when only the North Star, a 3 million waterfront home in Broadbeach, is going to be suitable. So we need to be having those conversations with our clients up front to save us time that we're not spending 8 months with these clients. Also, what this tells me is that is clear and that is focused. I think that this brief is going to get more opportunities, even though the other one is a lot wider. This tells me the buyer knows what they're looking for. That is somebody that I want to work with. And it also sticks in my mind. As a selling agent, from a selling agent's point of view, it sticks in my mind. If I'm looking at the other one and I'm thinking, oh, Currumbin here, there, what are they after? What do they want? I don't really know. But I'm like, there's that buyer that's looking in Tugun for a house at 1.4 million, 4 baths. Let me give them a call. Also, with this one, the non-negotiables. I don't put non-negotiables in my brief. I don't put non-negotiables are for me and my clients to know. I don't put non-negotiables in my brief, because let's say, for example, we come across 5 off-market, or there's 5 off-market properties available in the marketplace through the agents in the area. And only one of them, if we use this as an example, is at the end of a cul-de-sac. We're only potentially going to get the opportunity to see 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5. I want to see all 5. The selling agents might have the initiative to say, oh, well, this buyer's looking for the end of a cul-de-sac. This one isn't, but I'm going to send it over to them anyway. But what if they don't? You see, I want to see all 5 of those properties, because I want to make the decision whether I want to eliminate it. So I don't put the non-negotiables in there. After all of my time transacting, one thing I've learned, correct me if I'm wrong, But there's one thing I've learned is that a buyer doesn't know what they want to buy until they've actually seen it. How many times have we come across a buyer who says, Colin, we're looking for a house in Sydney and we've got 1.4 to spend, only to go and buy a 2-bedroom apartment in Queensland for 3 million? I would much rather take that property to my client and be notified about it and have the opportunity to say no to it. I would much rather take that property to my client and say, hey, this ticks a lot of our boxes. Unfortunately, it's not at the end of a cul-de-sac. It's an off-market opportunity. And the amount of times a buyer said to me, well, Colin, it's not at the end of a cul-de-sac, but it does tick a lot of the other boxes. Let's explore the option. So when I'm putting my buy brief out there into the marketplace, I don't put the non-negotiables in. The non-negotiables are for me to know, because I want to have the opportunity to say no to the property. So I want to get it sent to me. That is the client brief that I go with. Your buyer brief becomes your brand. I truly believe this. So the buyer briefs 1 and 2, that's your business card. That tells me that you haven't been able to sit down with the client and get a focused idea of what they're actually looking for. This tells me these guys are on the ball and they're focused. I want to work with them. And then that becomes your brand and that becomes your business card, I believe. When I'm looking at buyer briefs and I see them all on my stories on Instagram and I'm flicking through them, it tells me everything I need to know about that buyer and about that agent. And it's how the agents will judge you. I used to do it all the time. It's how the agents will judge you. Research slow and act fast. This is something I want to quickly mention. And I know we said that this is the buyer brief, but this is really the buyer section. Like getting your buyer prepared so that they're ready to move forward when we find and come across the right properties for them. Sorry guys, I'm just going to have a bit of water. I've been talking for a long time. Research slow to act fast. After the inspection, we may need to move fast, as we know in this market. I want to give you the confidence in the days. This is what we say to the buyers. I want to give you the confidence in the days leading up to the inspection. We will communicate with you. We will cross every task off our list. We will ask questions, because when the time comes and we decide to go for it, we may only have a few hours to act. I was working with the buyer last year and everything lined up. You know those buyers where everything just lines up. It's perfect. It ticks every single box, area, location. I was friends with the agent. I was able to get the intel that nobody else, everything just lined up perfectly. We know the ones, and then we present it to our clients and they say no. And I asked the question, I said, well, what doesn't work for you here? Everything ticks the boxes, everything lines up. And she said, well, Colin, there's only one door that my dog's going to be able to go out and do his piss. So it's that door. So over time on this bit of grass here, there's going to be a yellow stain. And I'm not going to ever be able to get rid of that. Okay, so you're not buying a house because of where your dog can or can't piss. What I didn't realize then was it wasn't about where her dog was going to piss. We had to make a quick decision on this property. We had 24 hours to make a decision. Now, we've all come across those buyers who think that the market's going to wait for them. But the selling agents dictate the process of how they're going to play their game. We just need to abide by it and apply those rules. What the real issue here was that she was afraid. She was in a position where we had to make a decision within 24 hours. And for a lot of people and for a lot of buyers, it's a very, very important decision to make. For this lady in particular, she was buying by herself. She had worked very hard to save a deposit, and this property was going to be a part of her future and to build wealth. What she was afraid of was making a quick decision. So I had to have that conversation with her and really get to the bottom of, when we get to this point, we are going to have to make a quick decision. So what I want to give you the confidence with is that we are going to research slow in the days leading up to the inspection, so that we have cross-reference to everything. So we're leaving nothing to chance. And I had to give her that confidence. Whereas I've spoken with buyers agents in the past, and The reason why they're working for 3 or 4 or 5 months with the buyer is because they haven't uncovered the real issue. The real issue isn't where her dog's going to piss. The issue was she was afraid to pull the trigger. So it's taking a deeper dive into our clients. We're going to get on to the next pillar, which is communication. I will quickly see if I can jump into the chat here to see if there's any questions. How would you manage a conversation with a client when their only objection with the property is that the first to prospect you have given them? Yes. Great question. I used to come across this so many times. They always want to explore more options, right? Like, oh, you found this property too fast. Like, I want to, is that what you're referring to, Lisa? You found this property too fast. Why don't, maybe there's better options out there for us. Yeah. It's the conversation that we need to have with them up front, and it's when we're doing the brief. We need to let them know that there are multiple buyers going for these homes. Sometimes we can't, if something lines up, we're going to need to move quickly. This is the market at the moment. And we can give them some examples, and I'm sure we've all got examples that a buyer has walked away from a property in week 1 or 2, and then we've still been on the market in 4, 5 or 6 weeks, looking for that buyer. And in those 4, 5 or 6 weeks, the market's gone up by 20 or 30,000. I think it's a question, Lisa, that we have to be having at like, this is what's going to happen. Like, we're in the market every single day. We're seeing what's happening. And that's the conversation that we need to have with them and giving them examples of other buyers. We've had buyers that have transacted in 1 or 2 weeks and they've been extremely successful because everything's just lined up. The property's off market. The agent's given us the information we need and it ticks all of their boxes. That conversation needs to be having up front and letting them know what to expect. Because then when they come across it, it is a little bit like, oh, well, we've got time. We're not in a rush. And I hear those objections all the time. But yeah, we just need to be having those conversations with the buyers and saying up front at the brief and saying, look, there's a chance that we might come across a property very, very quickly. If all the stars aligned, I want to let you know that we're going to be extremely lucky if we're in that situation. Extremely lucky. There's 20 buyers at other open homes and there's 5+ offers. If we get the opportunity to sit at an offer table and have the chance of buying this property, I want to let you know that we are 1 in 10. It doesn't always happen. And I found that when buyers have said no to these opportunities, they've often sat on the market for 4, 5 or 6 weeks and they haven't been able to secure something. I am here and I'm in your corner. I think that's the most important thing, that we are going to have that conversation at the time. And I'm going to provide you with my expert opinion. But at the end of the day, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, the decision comes down to you. If I agree with you and I say, let's leave this one to one side. If I agree with you and say, let's leave this one to one side, there's going to be more opportunities coming up later. And no opportunities come up later, I'm wrong. And in this market, we need to acknowledge when a good opportunity comes across our desk. Are we okay to have that conversation with the property comes up and to move forward on it? That's a great question. I'm hearing a client saying to seller agent, you're selling and we're buying. What is a BA purpose? I'm hearing the client saying to a selling agent, you're selling and we're buying. What is a BA purpose? Jai, I think you might have to help clear that one up for me, mate. I'm not too sure if I understand that question. I had one of those. I sacked them after 4 months of BS excuses. The husband never wanted to use a BA. Stacey, I've had them myself. And sometimes you just have those clients who, not all clients are worth our time and our value, right? And Stacey, you bring up a really good point there. And I've had to do it so often as well. When you just come across those clients where you're just going to put in hours and hours and weeks and months of advice and time, and they're just never going to transact. All the stars align, Stacey, and everything just works out perfectly, and they still say no. It's tough, but we have to protect our time and we have to protect our value because at the end of the day, nobody else will. And a buyer will suck our time unnecessarily if we allow them to. Yeah, it's tough. Okay, let's move on. Let's try and get to some other questions at the end. I want to move on because we've onto communication. So this is when we're having the phone call with the agent before we actually go and see the property. So rapport versus trust. Rapport is a close and harmonious relationship in which people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings and or ideas and communicate well. Trust is the fundamental concept meaning reliance, belief in reliability. I see a lot of the time, oh, we just need to build rapport. We just need to build rapport with the agents. Wrong. It helps, but what we need to build is trust. Now, we have got, if we, a great way to build trust is when we've worked with the selling agents before, right? They've seen how we operate. They know that we're an easy buyer to work with. They know that we've qualified our buyers and that the buyers are ready to go and we're going to be easy for them. But if we haven't worked with them before, we have about 3 to 5 minutes to try and build trust because we need to build trust so that they're able to give us information and intel that the normal buyer or the other buyer agent can't get. I love this module. Please tune in for this one. Your communication will demonstrate your experience or lack of it. A selling agent, by how you communicate with them, will get off the phone after their conversation with you and they'll either say, geez, that buyer's agent knows what they're doing. Or they'll say, I hope their buyer's not interested in this property because I really don't want to work with them. That is how I, as a selling agent, I would be able to, in 3 to 5 minutes, get off the phone and say, geez, I want to work with that buyer's agent. Why? They're sharp. They're on the ball. They ask the right questions and they're going to make my life easier. That is why I want to work with them. When I was a selling agent, I used to only work with about two. Of course, look, if a buyer's agent brought a buyer to me and we were going to do the deal, we were going to do the deal. But in terms of off market, intel, information is the most important thing in our industry. Information. We talk a lot about the offer table. Get the terms and conditions right. Get the offer right. No, information. And we'll talk a little bit later on about that. I would only trust 2 or 3 agents or buyer's agents with intel, important information. And because I knew that it wasn't going anywhere else. So your communication will demonstrate your experience or lack of it. We want the agent to put down the phone and say, I want to work with that agent. Would I like to work with this BA? I got a bit ahead of myself. Are they going to make my life easy? Can I trust them with intel? Firstly, I just want to say before the communication starts, I want to tell you a little bit of story about my communication. I've still got a lot of work to do on my communication, but I was a selling agent for 12 years or 13 years before somebody actually told me and said, hey, Colin, your communication needs a little bit of work. I was a Ray White agent for 12 years. And I used to have a lot of people in the office around me saying, wow, I love the way you speak to people on the phone. That sounds great. And then I joined an agency called Koloshi, where we were dealing with higher end luxury properties. And, I was sitting with selling agents that were doing 3 to 5 million a year. So I was told, Colin, your communication needs a little bit of work. No one likes to hear how you can improve this or you can do that. I looked around at the people that were giving me this advice and they were writing $4 to $5 million a year. It's like this person knows what they're talking about. I invested into my communication. I realized that I was staying where I was because I just didn't surround myself with the right people. I surrounded myself with people who thought that my communication was okay. But then when I took it to the next stage and the next level, I was told that this is something that needs work. My pride got in the way. I said, no, it's perfect. My communication is perfect, but it wasn't. I looked back on it and it was far from perfect. I looked back at old stories on Instagram and things like that. And this is the benefit of having somebody in your corner, to offer a bit of help and advice and support when sometimes we just can't see it ourselves to get to the next level. So I worked on my communication. It's still not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. And I like that about that. It means that I've still got room to grow. But getting that communication, if it's something that we need to work on it, because it's probably the most important pillar in this whole section. Can I trust them with intel? The selling agent needs to know that they can trust you with intel. How to build trust in a 3-minute conversation. Match and mirror. The agent picks up the phone, they're going to have a presence about them, a behavior. We work with many, many different people, many, many different characters, some young, some old, some slow, some fast, some quiet, some loud. The initial interaction, they need to feel connected with us. If they're slow, be slow. If they're loud and fast, be loud and fast. Because then it shows that we're on their level. And then throughout the conversation, we can slowly bring them around to the way that we like to operate. But we need to start with where they're at. And we know a lot of the agents in our area. One thing I like to say is when we're working with selling agents, get to know them, get to know their personality. I'm calling in regard to one, two, three. Be direct and be focused. Agents don't have a lot of time. Be direct and be focused. What do you want? How can I help you? That is what most agents want. I'm calling regarding 123 Smith Street. Is this a bad time to talk? Shows direct and that you're a professional. I have a buyer. This is their situation. We've been looking for 3 weeks. This is their brief. We feel that 123 Smith Street might be of interest. Would you agree? Yes, no. I have a few questions. Here you want your questions about what you want around the property. Is it tenanted? Well, how long is the lease? Have you done a building and pest inspection? All those kind of things. Like all your standard property questions. Let's leave them to one side for the moment. One of the most important things in this phone call that we want to try and establish is how will you handle the offer situation? I'm assuming you're going to have multiple offers. How are you going to handle that situation? Will you be closing this one off on Saturday? When will your sellers be making their decision? What terms are important to your sellers? These are all questions that build trust. It shows that you know how to operate, you know how to position your buyer. And when you're getting the answers to these critical questions, the selling agents know that you're going to be making their life easier because they've got all of the information, all of the important information. When it comes time to handling the offer or the multiple offer situation on Saturday, they know they're not going to be coming up bombarding me with questions or anything like that. They're going to make my life easier. You're building trust quickly with the selling agent by being direct and being focused. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Colin, I already know this. What are you adding to my communication that I don't already know? There's a really beautiful thing that I like to add in, which creates a real connection with the selling agents. Does anyone know what it is? I'm going to jump in the chat here if I can. No. Something that I like to add that I've learned over my years of really building trust and connection with the selling agents. Tactical empathy. Anyone heard of tactical empathy before? Yes, no? Have you all gone to sleep on me? Yes, Fern, yes. It's something that it releases a chemical called oxytocin, and I'll explain how this works, and you can use it in any different situation. If you take oxytocin now and you put it in your Google search and you press send and it comes up with the meaning, it will tell you the nickname for oxytocin is the love hormone because it builds connection. It builds connection and it builds connection fast. How do we use tactical empathy to get the agents on side very quickly? Okay, how do we use it? We use questions and statements like it seems, it sounds, it looks. And I'll explain how it works. After the conversation and we've got all the information and we've asked all of the questions and we've built trust, we've demonstrated to the agent that we are a professional. We have qualified our buyer with the easiest person to work with, and we've demonstrated our experience by being direct and asking for their time and not being rude. I was working with, I had a buyer's agent ring me 2-3 years ago when I was a selling agent. And some of you may know that an auction property in Queensland, you can't give a price guide. And she said, "Oh, Colin, you can give me a price guide. I'm a fellow professional." And I thought, at least take me out for dinner first. At least buy me a drink. You haven't demonstrated anything to me that I can trust you enough to provide you with this information. You need to show me that you can be trustworthy first. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. So look, it seems like I like to use things like this. It and be curious. It seems like your sellers that wanted to sell this on Saturday. It seems like your sellers want to sell this on Saturday. Or it sounds like your sellers are not ready to make a decision yet. Or it looks like this one might go to multiple offers. What we're doing is we're repeating what the selling agent is saying back to us with the answers. So listen carefully to their answers. They might say, "Oh, Colin, the sellers are going to be open to all offers on Saturday afternoon." Or, the sellers might need a little bit of feedback, market feedback, before they can make the decision. So then it sounds like your sellers are not ready to make a decision yet. What the selling agent is thinking then is, you get me. You understand me. You've just demonstrated. So we know, we empathize with their situation, but the tactical part is we're letting them know that we understand. Have we ever been in those situations before where somebody might say, or you might say, "Oh, I really like that person." "Oh, why do you like that person?" "I don't know. They just get me. They just understand me." How many times have we heard that? If we've got children, "What do you like about your friend?" It's like, they just understand me. If we can demonstrate that we're able to understand the agent, there's a couple of things we're doing here. We're saying they're going to make my life easier. They understand and they know that my sellers are not ready to make a decision on Saturday. They know and understand that our sellers are going to want to make a quick decision. So they're able to position their buyers. But when we can get the selling agent to say, "That's right," it releases that chemical oxytocin, which is the connection chemical. And it works. It really, really works. You can use this anywhere. You can use this at airports if you want to get an upgrade on your seat. You can use this at hotels. I'm a big fan of Chris Voss. I listen to all of his books. I've invested in his course as well. Great negotiator. You can use this anywhere. I practice on people all the time. I went to my local fish and chip shop. If anyone knows the Gold Coast, there's a really great British fish and chip shop in Burleigh. I love it. I was there on Saturday night. It was packed. It was absolutely packed. It was jam-packed. There was about 3 people in the queue in front of me. Every person that went up to the counter, you could tell the guy behind the counter, he was exhausted. He was sweating. He was one customer after the other. And everyone was nice and polite to him. Like, "How's it going? Yeah, I'll have a whatever I'm having." And you can see his face didn't change. Everyone was nice and everyone was polite. Again, the difference between building rapport and trust. Everyone was nice. Everyone was polite. And his facial expression stayed the same. And then I got to the front of the counter and I said, "It seems like you've had a long night." And when I was able to demonstrate that I understood him, I connected. You could see it. He was able to let go and he got, "Oh, mate, you have no idea." I connected with him. I love to practice these things. I connected with him on a different level that nobody else was able to connect with him on. And that's how we get information. Or if I wanted to get something extra on my fish and chips, or if I want to upgrade it in a hotel, we can get to the reception in a hotel and do the same thing. Everyone's busy, everyone's working with clients and customers, and you can say, "It seems like you've had a long day." "Yes, they finally get me. You know, would you be against me asking for an upgrade?" Things like that. But we get information out of people. And that's what we need to try and get when we communicate with these selling agents. Try it, use it. I wanted to write the one down. I absolutely love it. You'll be surprised how much more intel and information you get from the selling agents when you just connect on that deeper level. The goal communication is that buyer's agent needs to put down the phone and go, that buyer's agent is going to be great to work with. I'm running out of time here. I'm going to move quickly. Qualifying the property. If we've done number 2 right, communication, we're going to get the information that we require. If we build that trust and build that connection with the agent's not going to fluff us. It's what I found a lot when I was buying, going to sell. Okay, go, Colin, we're guiding this at 1.1, but I can probably see it going for more like 1.4. But if we haven't built that connection yet, we need to qualify the property. As I mentioned before, we don't want to be taking our clients into a $1.4 million property on a $1.1 million budget. It happens. Information has different levels. Surface level is your average buyer. Professional, when they know that you understand. As I said, when we're demonstrating in the communication. How we've communicated with them will dictate what level we get from the selling agent. So I was chatting to a buyer's agent in Victoria a couple of days ago. He was an ex-selling agent as well. Really great operator down there in Melbourne. And he said to me, he said, like, some people would give intel to, other people we wouldn't give intel to. Just depends if we like them or not. There's nothing right or wrong with it, but the average buyer, if you're not able to demonstrate your experience and your professionalism or your trust, the average buyer will get the guide, the surface level information. When they can know and trust you as the professional, you get more information. Which one you land on will be determined by how well you have communicated. Go deeper than just the guide. We need the buy-in from the agent. So I've been in many situations. As we know, the guide alone does not provide the confidence to remove the property from my list on the weekend inspections. Our job here is to eliminate the properties that we need to take off our list that we don't have any chance of buying. Now, sometimes we get the guide and sometimes we get the buy-in, and it doesn't provide us with the confidence to scrub that property off our list. We've all been there, right? Where our gut feeling is telling us this property is going to sell for 1.4. It's going to sell for 1.4. Yeah, it's definitely going to sell for 1.4. Our clients have only got the budget of 1.1, but there's always that, but what if? What if we got this one for 1.1? How many of you have been there? I've been there. Like, what if? I don't want to take this property off my list. What if it does sell for 1.1 and I've not brought my clients through it? Then I'm at fault. Then I'm at blame. The guide alone does not provide us with the confidence. We need the buy-in. We need the buy-in from the agent. We need the number from them to confidently scrub it off our list. The agent's buy-in. We want to relate it to the comparables and the conversations discussed with the sellers at the listing table. Pick one and anchor to it. I was listening to a story the other day from another buyer's agent, and they put something on social media, and it was exactly to this effect. We've got no price guides, we've got ranges, we've got budgets, all these kind of things. But the selling agent, when they're having that conversation with the sellers, or when they're listing the property, they're providing them with comparables, data as to where fair market value is going to sit for this property. They're not going to give us those properties. If we say, what have you put on the agency agreement? They're not going to tell us what they put on the agency agreement. What comparables have you used? They're not going to tell us what comparables they have used. But a way to get in the inside of those conversations of where the sellers and the selling agents are having is to pick one of those comparables that they're clearly talking about. Let's use the example 123 Smith Street. So we can see we're going in to see a property. We're having that conversation with the agent and we're trying to qualify price. We're trying to get the agent buy-in. We can have a look at a similar property that has sold. Now, I like to always try and pick one that the agent has sold. However, that's not always possible. I like to try and pick one that the agents have sold and anchor to it. And it is one of the properties that they are going to be having the conversation with the sellers about. I see you sold 123 Smith Street, or I see recently 123 Smith Street sold for 1.4 million. Let's say, for example, they're guided 1.1. The one that we're interested in, and 123 Smith Street is clearly going to be a property that they're having with the sellers, and the conversation that they're having with their sellers. Recently sold for 1.4. The one that we're interested in that we're going to have a look at on Saturday, is it inferior or superior to 123 Smith Street? And shut up. They might say, oh, it's superior. And then we can ask, well, why is it superior? The one that we're going to have a look at. Oh, well, it's, got the double garage, it's got the high ceilings, and it's got the corner block that 123 Smith Street didn't have. That's our buy-in. We know that this property is not selling for 1 point or below 1.4 in the first weekend, because that is the same conversation that the selling agents are going to be having with their sellers. They're going to have sat down at the listing table. So what we want to do is get an insight of what that conversation was. They're going to be sitting down at the listing presentation table, and they will have discussed 123 Smith Street. So what we've actually done there is we've got an inside hearing to the comparables that they spoke about with their sellers. Sorry, my series going up there. I'll stop that. And that's what we want to try and establish. Confidently cross it off your list, if that's the point. If your buyers have only got 1.1, that's the buy, and you need to confidently cross that property off your list. If it's still there in a few weeks' time, then we can revisit it, but they are not selling that property in the first weekend for 1.4 million. If they say, oh, it's the one that we're going to have a look at is inferior, we can ask why. The agent will elaborate on the features as to why Smith Street is not as good. I think I've done that the wrong way around. But 123 Smith Street is the property that we're using as a comparable. And if the property that we're going to have a look at is inferior, I want to know why. Well, they might say that 123 Smith Street had the double garage and the high ceilings, and it was the corner block. Okay, great. Really appreciate that. And that sold for 1.4. How much below Smith Street do you feel those things that you've just mentioned are worth? Colin, there's easily 200 grand there. And again, these are going to be the insights to the conversations that they're having with their sellers, or they had with their sellers at the comparable table. They will have sat with their sellers and said, we're looking for above 1.4 because 123 Smith Street sold and ours is better because of X, Y, and Z. So we're getting an insight and we're getting the buy-in so that we can either cross that property confidently off our list, and that we're not taking our $1.1 million buyer into a $1.4 million property. The information here will likely be the same as the conversations intentionally had with their sellers. And the superior features of 123 Street are worth around 300 grand. We can get an idea of what that agent feels the inferior attributes to that property are worth to them. So then we can get a bit more of a buy-in as to where the conversations are being had with their sellers. Pick the number between 123 Smith Street and its original price guide. So yeah, and add the superior features of 123 Street are around 300 grand. So you feel that whatever they're guiding to 123 Smith Street, it could be 400 grand. And you can say, okay, so you feel like these features are worth 400 grand? And then we can just dig a little bit deeper. But we really need to get the buy-in. You have the buy-in, now you can confidently either add the property to your weekend's inspections or remove it. I see so many people wasting time going out to do inspections. We've only got one day on a Saturday, right? We've only got one day to go out and have a look at property. If we're only one person, we need to be extremely strategic about which properties we're going to have a look at, depending on your buyer's budget. Avoiding wasting your time visiting open homes, you have no chance in buying. We're going to get into the multiple offers now. I hope you're still with me. Anyone asleep? Everyone still here? Chuck a yes in the chat if you're still with me, so I know I'm not talking to myself. Yeah, we're all here. Perfect. Guys, I'm going to run through this one pretty quickly. Thanks for still bearing with me. And how are we finding it so far? Has there been value? Has there been something that has been a bit of an aha moment? Is there anything that it's like, yes, this is something that I need to work on? Appreciate it. Lots of yes, awesome. Thank you. Fantastic. Right, let's get into it. Multiple offers, the last quadrant. So as I mentioned at the beginning, there's so many different multiple offer situations that the agents will play and the systems. We need to know all of them. Although different states there's there's common patterns in play. So, for example, in Queensland here, the best way to handle a multiple offer situation is close it off on a certain day and just say to all of the buyers, best and final offers. We might have different rounds of offers and things like that. Whereas in New South Wales, I found the Dutch auction is actually a common method of the multiple offer situation where they just go back and forth with the buyer and just say, hey, this is the price that the other buyers paid. Do you want to beat it or not? And then in Victoria, they do a lot of the online models. So look, we need to be all over everyone. Unfortunately, we're not able to discuss every single situation and scenario. I've picked 4 of the most common ones today that we are going to go through. Let me just have another drink. Oh. The only way to escape multiple offer situations is buying every property exclusively off market. As soon as a property hits realestate.com, we're in competition. We all know that. Each agent will run a different system. It's important to understand each one and where we can leverage can be created. So our job as buyers agents is to create leverage. We need to create a situation where we're able to position our buyer better than everyone else in the marketplace, right? That's our job. That's where we're able to add value. We need to create leverage that the buyer is not able to find. Let me tell you, in every single multiple offer situation, there is leverage. We have to play by the selling agent's rules. The selling agent determines whether they go to best and final offers. The selling agents determine whether they go to auction. The sellers determine whether they go to an online portal. Is there ways that we can manipulate these systems? Absolutely. But 9 times out of 10, if you're working with an experienced agent and they've been in the game a long time, they're going to have their systems and processes and they are not going to allow you to deviate from them. So we need to find leverage within their systems. And there's always a way to find leverage within their systems. So here today, we're going to talk about the best and final offer Queensland special. The Dutch auction I found in New South Wales. Pop in the comments, actually pop in the chat. What are you coming across in your multiple offer situations? It'd be interesting to see the different states and what the different processes are. The online platform and then is the auction. We'll go to the chat at the end, guys. It's just because we're running out of time and I want to get through this. I hope that's okay. Best and final offer. Always ask, when are you presenting the offers to your sellers to make their final decision? The mistake I see a lot of people make here is making the offer when the sellers aren't ready to make a decision. You're just circulating in this circus of buyers going back and forth. And the selling agent is going to be, what do you want to put down? What do you want to put down? What do you want to put down? Well, it's all kind of pointless. If your sellers are not in a position to make a decision, why am I even making an offer? You let me know when your sellers are ready to make a decision, and that's when I'm going to come to the table. If we built up enough rapport and trust in the communication module, we'll get off it. We'll get asked that. But we need to know, when are you presenting the offers to your sellers for their final decision? Is it Monday close of business? Is it Tuesday close of business? Are you going to be running another open home on Tuesday and having that conversation with them on Wednesday morning? Because the reason why I want to know when the sellers are making the decision, the agents will 9 times out of 10 have a date. And they'll say, Colin, we're having that conversation and we're going to be presenting all of the offers to our sellers at 5 p.m. on Monday. You need to have your clients offering by then, because I always want to be last. Always want to be last. And if you've done everything right in module 2 or pillar 2 communication, the agent is going to want to work with you and they're going to want to give you the information. So I always want to be last. And I've had so many BAs saying to me, but Colin, then you're last. And then the agent's just going to shop it around to all the other buyers again. It's like, well, that's not last then. That's second last. Somebody always has to be last. There always has to be a last conversation before they meet the sellers. That is when we want to be having the conversation with the selling agents, because that is the time that they are sitting on a whole pile of information. They're sitting on how many buyers they've got. I've got 5 buyers. They're between 700 and 800. One of them's got a build and a pest, one of them's got clean, whatever it is. That is the only time they're sitting on all the information. Making your offer on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon when the sellers aren't ready to make the decision until a Monday evening, you're relying on hope. You're not gathering no leverage or no information for the buyer. Our job is to generate leverage. If you have to be the first offer on the table, always ask for the first right of refusal. So you might be in a situation where you're not sure if there's going to be multiple offers. You might speak to the agent on a Saturday afternoon and they might say, well, no other offers have come in yet, Colin. And at that point, you might be thinking, well, obviously, I don't want to miss out on the property. And then you say, if we make our offer this afternoon and another offer, I'm not stupid. You're going to be obviously speaking to the other buyers and saying, we've got an offer on the table and you're most likely going to get a second offer. I just want to know that if I'm going to be the first offer on the property this afternoon, can I have the first right of refusal to be your last conversation before you speak to the sellers? You'll always get a yes because you always want to be last. I saw a story on Instagram the other day from a buyer's agent. He wasn't wrong. He absolutely wasn't wrong. He said 3 things in a multiple offer situation that I would do. Number 1, be very clear on your price. Number 2, just be stagnant with your numbers. Don't go in at 1.4, go in at 1.472 or whatever. And clear communication. None of those things are wrong. But if you don't go in, if I go in last, it doesn't matter whether you've got a clear number and it's a messy number and you've communicated well. If I go in last, I'm getting that property. I'm getting the information and intel from the agent that I need. I mean, look, we're not going to get the property cheaper or better terms or anything, but what we're looking for here is information. Information. Like, for example, we need to create that connection. And that's why communication is so important before we get to this stage. When the agent puts down the phone and says, I want to work with that BA. Because let's say, for example, the agent goes out that night while they're looking at all the offers and they're sitting down with a friend and the friend asks them, they're going out for dinner and the friend asks them, how was your day? The second agent might say, oh, really great. We've just, closed up an offer scenario for this particular property. And yeah, we've got 5 offers on the table. Guess what? That friend going out for dinner is getting all of the information that you want. That friend going out for dinner is the best positioned person to buy that property because they've got the information from the selling agent because they're going out for dinner. So that's what we have to try and build and create. The last conversation, we need to go fishing and we need to be playful. We need intel. We need to be friendly doing it. So this is where communication is so important. This is what I do. And this is what works so well. I throw in a bait third party number well below what I expect the property to go for. And I might say to the selling agent, look, Bill, I'm gonna look, I might need your help. I might need your help with this because if we're thinking the property might go for 1.4, I might need your help with this because my buyers are still stuck on this number of 1.35. Like, I know the answer to this question, but I do have to ask it. Are we going to get your sellers to sign off on our contract at 1.35 today? Listen out carefully for their response. A quick no will indicate there's a large gap, which is what we expect. All we're looking out for here is the response, how they're responding. If they're curious at 1.35, I don't know, Colin, what would your terms and conditions be at 1.35? Then we're close. And what we want to do is we want to find out and we want to go fishing and we want to be playful and we want to be friendly. We want to be that friend that's going out for dinner and having a glass of wine with the agent because we want to be getting that information. A quick no. My buyers are stuck at this number of 1.35. I know I've got work to do. I know I've got work to do. Yes, Colin, you've got work to do. But surely you don't have this starting with a 1.4. Listen to the response. They'll tell you. They won't tell you exactly, but they'll say, oh, Colin, we do. It's just over 1.4. Or not quite, but it's close. Either of these responses is telling you where you need to position your buyer. Information. And then based on what they say there, okay, so what you're telling me is it sounds like, and again, we can use tactical empathy here. It sounds like your sellers want to get this close to 1.4. That's right, Colin. If I got my sellers to 1.3, 7.5. And I can't, I don't know if I'm going to get them to that level. But if I can get them to 1.375, do you think we'd get this done? And again, listen for the response. Is it terms and conditions? As soon as it's terms and conditions, we're close. If they say, well, what are your terms and conditions on that? And we've got clean terms and conditions. So what you're telling me is that 1.375 to 1.8, if we removed the finance clause and only had a building and pest, we'd get a signature? I can't guarantee anything. It is the seller's decision to make, but I think you'd be in a pretty good position there. We want to go fishing. It's so exciting. I actually love this point because I nearly always get the information. I was working with a buyer, and she said, we've all worked with those selling agents who are, the buyer said to me, Colin, she said, this selling agent is so by the book. She's been in the game for 30 years. She's so experienced. You're not getting any information out of her. I said, wow, like challenge accepted. Let's go. She said, she's so tough. She's known as the tough agent in the area. Nobody gets anything out of her. She's challenge accepted. Had this conversation with her, and it got to a point where the selling agent said to me, she paused for a good 10 seconds. And she said, you know what, Colin? I nearly gave you what you were after. It doesn't work all the time, but I was so close, and we had a laugh and a giggle about it. And that laugh and a giggle created that connection with us. That even if my offer was below the other offer, so that one we were going in with hope, because it doesn't work all the time. But go fishing, be curious, and be friendly. Yeah, if the agent says, like, we're curious, what terms would you put with that? Sounds like 1.35. Might get this done with clean terms. Listen to their response. Be playful. Is the agent lying? A lot of people say, well, Colin, the agent might be lying to you. They might be saying 1.4 just to try and get you up. Great question. Let's have a look at why agents fabricate the truth. When they have their back up against the wall, when they're desperate for their commission, uncertainty that they might not sell the property or that their agency agreement might be running out, long days on market, seller fatigue. Which one of these relates to our situation? They're going to be selling the property. They're going to be getting the commission. They've got certainty that they're going to be getting a signature on this property. They've got short days on market, and their sellers are excited to take an offer. The risk, if they lie in these situations, they lose a good buyer. So they might push us to 1.4, and my buyer might generally not have 1.4, and I might say we're out. At that point, they look a little bit stupid if they don't have 1.4 on the table and say, well, Colin put 1.38 and, see how it goes. It's like, well, you've clearly just lied to me about 1.4 then. So they risk losing a good buyer, their reputation, and they lose trust. So in these multiple offer situations, obviously we need to read each situation, but the agents have no reason to lie. The Dutch auction, treated the same as any other auction. So this is where the selling agent, it is behind closed doors, so it is a little bit uncertain to know whether the agent's sort of fabricating or not. But similar to the last situation that we spoke about, they've got absolutely no reason to lie. If they say that another buyer's at 1.4 and we pull out at that point, if they come back to us and say, well, no, what have you got? Then we can, they lose trust. So they've got no real reason to lie in those sorts of situations. But the Dutch auction, treat it the same as any other auction. Your goal is the other buyer has to believe that it's pointless to compete with you and to give up before they even reach their max. So there's a lot of stigma around, well, Colin, it just comes down to the buyer that has the deepest pockets. Untrue. It comes down to the buyer who's able to strategically say to the other buyer, you haven't got a hope in hell. We've either got to have deeper pockets or we've got to show them that we've got deeper pockets and that it's pointless competing with us. And it's the same as an auction. If we give the other buyer hope by going up in small increments or pausing, then it just comes down to who has the deeper pockets. It's not leverage. Creating leverage is showing the other buyer the perception that we are not going to give up, that we've got deeper pockets than they have. The online platform, I hate using them. What buyer's agent loves the online platform? The ones, oh, Colin, just click on this link. We'll send you a text message and then you just make your offer through that platform. I hate them. and I still do, although I put here until I realized why they exist. Do we really know why the online platform exists? No, just click the link. We'll send you a text message. We'll send you an email and you just make your offer through that. How painstaking is this process? They ask for driver's license, identification, your buyers, your first names, your middle names, what country you were born in, what your mother's maiden name was. It's to make the offer process simpler for the agents. Because if they had a multiple offer situation and they had 5 buyers, it just removes them from the process because no buyer really knows how to present an offer property. Some buyers give their first name, some buyers might give their last name, and this buyer's missing a building a pest inspection or whatever. And the agents have to go back and forth dealing with all of these inexperienced buyers to get the proper information so that they're able to take to their sellers to make an educated decision. We're not in that platform. We're not there. It removes the agents from the process, which I hate. The way that we're able to create leverage is through human element, as I mentioned in the previous best and final offers. We're not able to manipulate a computer, but we can manipulate human beings. And that's another reason why some certain agents do love the online platform. Sometimes they make mistakes by giving us information that they maybe shouldn't have done. And it removes them from that process. A way to get information it's just a way for them to get accurate information from a buyer. So that they're able to say, right, I've got these 5 buyers, I've got all the driver's licenses, I know who they are, I know why they're buying and all that kind of stuff. So that the sellers can make an educated decision. Why some BAs still hate them, there's no data, we're going in blind. We are going in blind with our offer. We don't know who else is offered on the property or anything like that. There's no human element and there is a lot of uncertainty. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, in this situation, it is hope. How many of you have used the online platform and it's just, we've had to hope. I've done it. Yeah. I've thrown in an offer for somebody on an online platform because it's just, I've got no information. I don't know where anybody else is. Where do we find leverage in these situations? It's a great question. If we have executed everything correctly in the communication stage, we bypass this system. I have done it multiple times with selling agents. If we have demonstrated that we're able to present them with the information they require, and they're not going to be going back and forth, that our buyer is strong. I used to always say to the selling agent in this situation, go back to the best and final and say, look, thanks for the link. Can I ask a question? When are your sellers going to be making a decision? We're going to be making it on Tuesday morning. Okay, great. Look, I've got to be honest with you. I'm not a computer person. I know it's all these IDs and everything and things like that. Can I just provide you with the information? Like, what are you looking for? First name, middle name, last name. We need to create leverage. We need that human interaction. We can't do it behind a computer screen. We cannot. So we need to still have that conversation with the agents. 8 times out of 10, it always worked for me. It doesn't always work. But if we've built that trust and that element with them, we've found the leverage. Hey, is it okay with you? Like if you're going to be speaking with your sellers on Tuesday morning, can I have that conversation with them? And I'll put all the information in an email that you need. We need that human element to be able to create leverage for our clients. That's what they're paying for us for, right? We find out when the sellers are in a position to make an educated decision. Then we say, can I call you at that stage? And then we go fishing again. We go fishing and we have a little bit of fun with it. We find out where the other offers are at and where all the other information's at. So we can bypass this system. It worked for me 8 times out of 10, but only if we've built that trust in stage 2, because they want us to be the buyer. The auctions are not won by the biggest budget. They are won by strategy, positioning, and perception. Very true. The best strategy to win an auction on auction day, even when you don't have the deepest pockets, is to make everyone believe that you do have the deepest pockets. Your goal is to make the other buyers believe competing with you is pointless. I've used this analogy many times. I'm going to be quick about this, but let's say we're running a 100-meter race and we've got an opponent standing next to us, and for the whole 100 meters, Our opponents are neck and neck. They're right there with us. Our opponents are pushing us to be our best. It's the person that's running right next to us that is keeping us going. And that we can think just one little push, one little arm out, one small little step, and we can win this race. Whereas if we're lining up on the 100-meter line and we've got Usain Bolt standing next to us, he's done 100 meters while we're still on 50, right? We've given up hope. We've probably given up hope at the starting line. So when we give the other buyers and run with them hope, all we're doing is pushing the other buyer to their maximum. If we're Usain Bolt and we show them that there's absolutely no hope in winning this auction, they give up before they reach their maximum. That is my strategy, and that is the strategy that's worked for me many times. So as a selling agent, I was predominantly an auction agent. I loved them. And I used to always say to buyers and bidders, use this strategy when you're bidding. It will scare the other people off. Everyone was so afraid to do it. Everyone was like going up in little small increments and having conversations with their partners and their kids and being on the phone, and it didn't work. The best strategy to winning on auction day, even when you don't have the deepest pockets, is to make everyone believe that you do. We need the other people to give up hope before they've reached their maximum. Preparation, obviously, know your absolute max before you go in. Goes without saying, right? We need to know what the number and the walkaway number is, and we need to question it from our buyers as well. If they give us 1.4, no problem at all. So if we've got an opportunity to buy it at 1.45, we're out. Well, Colin, you can have a conversation with us at that stage. Okay, well, 1.45, we need to know. I need to know, because I can't have a conversation with you. Because the moment I pick up my phone or try and send a text, I've just given all the other room the opportunity that they know that I'm close to my max. I've just let them into our strategy. So we need the absolute max to walk away. When you get it, question it. We always have to question it. I've been in this situation many times where I've got to my max at an auction, and the next thing you know, the phone's ringing and it's the buyer because they're watching it online. It happens. Like, even when you question it, it happens. The buyer must understand that any hesitation, phone call, or pause, control is lost. Know your competition. When you get to the auction, how many people are you competing against, and are they investors or owner occupiers? Are they going to be numbers driven, or are they going to be emotionally driven? It's good to get a good understanding of that. 50% of your buyers have shown up because of the guide price, which we know is going to be an underquote of what the property is actually going to sell for, right? There's always those people that are hoping that they can get the property for 1.1 and when it's really going to sell for 1.4. We need to knock those people out with our first bid. We need to show them that we are here to party, because we know that realistically, even if we're the highest bidder and we've beaten all of the other buyers, we still have to get past the sellers. And I think that's what a lot of buyers and buyers agents misunderstand. Oh, I'm the winning bidder. Well, you still have to get past the sellers. And we've already had that conversation with the selling agent around the comparables and where their expectations are. So don't be afraid to, if you've had the conversations with the selling agent and you're around 1.4, and the guide's at 1.1, don't be afraid to go in at 1.2 or to start at 1.2. Because the selling agents and the auctioneer want to start it early. That was our trick. If we can get all of the buyers involved, it builds momentum, it builds energy. People get excited. When people are excited, they spend more money. Our job is to slow it down as a buyer's agent. Our job is to knock everybody out, or 50% of our competition out, with our first bid. As long as it's obviously not stupid. If we think the right price for the property is at 1.4, we're probably not even going to go 1.3, we're going to go 1.2. Things like that. But just at that level, don't play into the game of starting low and building up energy. Knock them out with our first bid. The agent and the auctioneer's goal is to start it low, create energy, fast bidding, and to get everybody involved. Our goal is slow it down and control the pace. Here's the mistake I see a lot of buyers agent or buyers make. They run with the rest of the room. As I mentioned, if we're running alongside in a 100-meter race, all they're doing is giving the other room hope. So if one person goes up in 10, we go up in 10. They go up in 10, we go up in 10. They go up in 10, we go up in 10. We're providing them hope that we're on the same level. If they go up in 10, we go up in 20 or 30, providing obviously it's within range. But understanding that if we need to be that person that everybody looks at and goes, what are they doing? Did they know something we don't know? No, we just have a better strategy. And we're not providing you with any hope. We're letting you know that we're here to win this. Like I can get a budget for my clients of 1.3. So Colin, don't spend any more than 1.3 million. I might be at 1.3. The rest of the room might think, oh, well, like he's not stopping. Well, they don't know that I have to stop here. I've just presented that feeling to the rest of the room that I'm not going to stop. And I go right up until what I'm allowed to with my client's budget. They ask for lower increments, buyers and buyers agents, they ask for lower increments. So when they're getting close to the end, if they've only got like an extra 20 grand and the bidding's going up in fives, we've all heard them on auctions. It's like, oh, but it take two. All you're doing is showing the rest of the room that you're close to the end. And you're providing them hope. Hope that the other people say, oh, I've got this. They're asking for lower increments. They're close to their max. They hesitate to have conversations, or they use their phone, all tricks that people are close to the end. All of these do provide is your competition with hope and stretches them to their absolute limit. All we're doing by mirroring them is pushing them and letting them know that there's hope that they can actually purchase this property. Your competition has to believe that you're never going to give up, even if you may be close. I was with an auction in the south of Brisbane, bidding on it for a client. I won't go into too much detail, but I had a budget of 860,000. My buyer said we're at 860,000, and that's it. There was 5 bidders to start with, and it got down to the last 2, me and one other gentleman, at around the 820,000 mark. He was hesitating. He was asking for smaller increments, all of that kind of stuff. I was at 850,000, so I only had 10 grand to play with. But throughout the process, I was firing back quickly, going higher than what they were going to. We need to read the room, of course, and remember and know that if there's multiple bidding going on and it's going up by 10 and 20,000 and it's going quickly, there's fuel in the fire. There's fuel in the. What's the point in going up in 10 or 20? Imagine it when there's fuel in the fire. It's going to go a lot higher than that. Let's be realistic. But anyway, this particular situation in South Brisbane, I was at 850. I only had 10 grand to play with. But and then he was hesitating, and then he went up an extra 852,000, and I straight went back with 855,000, knowing that I only had 5 grand to play with from there. But he didn't know that. And he literally threw his paddle on the ground in front of this big audience in South Brisbane. It was hilarious. He threw his paddle on the ground, and he said, "You have it." So his last bid was 852. Mine was 855. We could have kept going up in thousands and 2000s. I've seen those auctions go up another 50,000 because I was just giving him hope. The gentleman came up to me at the end of the auction and he told me he had a lot more money to spend on the property. He told me he had a lot more money than 860,000 to spend on the property. But he said that he knew that I just wasn't going to give up. So he gave up. If I had gone up in 1s and 2s and matched his 852 and 854, all I was doing was providing him hope that for an extra 1,000 or an extra 2,000, he was going to win this property. But when I jumped to 855, made him think this guy's not backing down. After today, let's get into. I'm going to be really quick here, I promise. Thank you for everybody for staying with me. After today, what do you feel like? So those are the 4 quadrants. That's it, the 4 quadrants. I don't know where the camera is. There it is. 4 quadrants. After today, what do you feel like the most important pillar in the whole process is going to be for you moving forward? Communications. Yeah, communication. Communication. 2, communication. Yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree, communication. If you're building communication with the agent, and as I said, I spoke to a buyer's agent in Victoria, and selling agents really do. After being in the industry as a selling agent for 15 years, I picked and chose who I wanted to work with. Sometimes I don't get the choice of who I wanted to work with. If a buyer's agent brought a buyer to me, then, and they were in a position to buy, but who I chose to give intel to, who I chose to trust. And in our role, it doesn't matter in a multiple offer situation if you've, got the highest price, got the best terms. If you go last and you get that information from the selling agent, you're always going to win, providing it's within your budget. You're always going to win. Communication is absolute key. Let me just turn that off. If you believe in your service, avoiding the conversation is selfish. Someone's business or life might stay stuck if you stay silent. I saw this the other day and it really rang true to me. Guys, if you're at a barbecue on a Saturday afternoon and you overhear Uncle Bob having a conversation with somebody and the other person says, "Oh, God, I'm in the market at the moment and I'm trying to buy a property, but the selling agents are playing all these games with me and, they're not putting a price guide on it and I've put in an offer and I've been ghosted and I've just been in the market for 8 months and it's just an absolute nightmare." If you believe in your service, avoiding the conversation is selfish. Someone's business or life might stay stuck if you stay silent. At that point, when you're listening to that conversation, do you want to go and introduce yourself to that person? Let me know in the chat. Would you want to go and introduce yourself to that person and put your hand up and say, "Hey, I might be able to help you. I overheard your conversation with Uncle Bob. I might be able to help you." 100%. If somebody is needing our service, avoiding the conversation is selfish. Someone's business or life might stay silent. Guys, I'm going to run you through a little bit. I hope you don't. I'm now asking this. This quote really rang true to me. So now I'm asking for your permission to run through just 5 minutes. If you bear with me, before we get onto the Q&A, just 5 minutes, I'm asking for your permission if I'm able to run through my service with you, because it might help one or two of you out there. And I don't want to avoid this conversation because I want to let you know at least what I'm able to offer and my service, just in case it resonates with somebody. Is that okay? Is that okay if I do that? We're only going to be 5 minutes. Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Before we start, look, there's no one podcast, there's no course, or there's no book, right, that's going to make us a master negotiator or expert negotiator. There's not. It might help us build the basics, it might help us build the fundamentals, but it's not going to help us become a master in our role. You're here tonight because you're open, right? You're open to the opportunities and the different levels and the different stages that you can get to within this business. Mastery isn't built in a moment. It's earned through consistency, sound technique, reputation, and the right support over time. I know people that have been in this industry for 1 year and they've worked under either an expert buyer's agent, negotiator, and they've obviously learned and got support. And they've got to the same point in their career that has taken somebody 3 years who's gone in alone. But I also know people that have gone in alone for 3 years and absolutely freaking thriving. What I want to do, I want to play a little game. If you've got a pen and you've got a paper, grab a pen in nice big letters on your pad. What is your average commission? What is your average commission? Is it 15? Is it 20,000? Based on the markets that you work in, write down your commission. What we took you through today was 4 lessons. Buyer's brief, or really a lot to do with buyers, communication, property, qualifying, and multiple offers. You actually got a bonus one tonight. I don't know if anybody saw what it was, but you actually got a bonus one tonight, and it was bidding strategy, because it was part of the multiple offers. So you actually got 5 lessons. I don't know what a quadrant's 4. I don't know what you'd call what you'd call a 5. But we went through 4 lessons today. The program that I've created is the 100K month BA playbook. It's called that because that's what it does. If you're able to consistently get to 7 deals every single month, take the number that you've just wrote down in your notepad, times it by 7. What number do you get? This is the program that I've created, and it's after 17 years of refined 1,600 transactions, all the lessons, all the tactics, all the secrets, all the manipulations, all the psychological games and everything. Define your business. Who are you? Your client brief. Connect. Really connect in communication, connecting with agents, off markets, incentives. You get the picture. The next module is control. Controlling your clients, controlling your business, and controlling the selling agents. And competing in multiple offer situations, private treaty. Now we're taking connect, control, and compete, and we're putting it into the private treaty and how it works. So we're actually feeding it into your business, seller strengths and weaknesses, what to tell the agents, how to talk to the agents, and then the auction, my absolute favorite, how to buy prior to auction, how to know when the sellers are at that level of uncertainty and when they're gonna snap your arm off that offer, because there is a system. And it's a really, really exciting system. And then after the contract, when the contract's signed, navigating conditions and things like that. That's the online program. That's the online course. So this is what it basically includes: frameworks for every possible deal scenario, auctions, off markets, distress sales, and more. Negotiation strategies that flip leverage in your favor. Setting up client briefs to win faster with less friction. Building powerful agent relationships the right way. Getting access to off-market stock, knowing which questions to ask the selling agent before wasting time on inspections, getting in early before the first open while others are sleeping, securing properties prior to auction, timing your offer like a pro. Stop in an auction before it even starts. Winning auction strategy, bidding strategies, which we've already heard. Understanding when seller timing is ready, when the seller is ready to move, and how to spot it. This course alone is worth the price of the admission. The playbook, as well as the online course, 30-minute startup course. So we go through your business with yourself. Weekly coaching calls. So every single week we get together, we go through a Q&A. We bring in guests, we bring in special BAs, we bring in auctioneers so that we can get an idea of what's it like on the auction side. So every single week we'll be running an hour to 90-minute group coaching session. Daily WhatsApp community. One of the most important things I found is people just want support. You're second guessing the question, or you're second guessing the offer. Not only myself, but we're in the WhatsApp group and we're supporting each other, right? I'm in there every single day, and people are running scenarios by me, and I'm saying, look, this is what I would do in this situation. And it just stops you from second guessing. Template scripts, offers, and frameworks, recordings of all group coaching sessions. So this recording will go in there as well. But so the content is being updated weekly, and we're working through people's strengths and strategies and challenges and things like that. So the content is being updated every single week. Real deal reviews. What I want to do on those calls as well is, like, when people come to me with a negotiation and they say, hey, this is what's happened. Let's break it down. Let's break it down. Let's understand the situation and the scenario, and let's improve on what we're already doing. I believe that it's a very, very small tweak, a little bit like my communication, a very small tweak that I didn't even know about, but made a bundle of difference. Meal deal reviews, unlimited events, workshop, and webinar access, and a community of elite BAs, getting around everybody, and just being supported. The 100K month playbook, 12-month program is 9,600. And that is for a whole year, 12 months support, systems, strategies, frameworks, everything that we've just run through with yourself. I wanted to have a look at that number that you wrote down on the piece of paper, which was your average commission. Now, if all of this did for you was increase your deal flow by 1 property a month, would it be worth it? So take the number you've written down and times it by 12. If all this did was increase your deal flow by 1 property a month, would it be worth it? Now, if all this did was increase your deal flow by 1 property every 6 months, so just by 2 properties a year, would it be worth it? If all this did was increase your deal flow by 1 property in the whole year, One property in the whole year, worst case scenario. These frameworks got me to 7 a month. If all this did was increase your deal flow by one property in 12 months, would it be worth it? Webinar special for you here today. It's not 9,600. Everybody that's here and logged into this webinar here today is going to benefit from having the webinar special. We're taking 40% off. For today only, for people there, for people that are here, we are taking 40% off. So today only, we're doing it for 5,280 for the whole 12 months, the whole support network. Now ask yourself the same question. Have a look at your commission. But wait, remember I told you, if you stay till the end, we have a bonus opportunity. Have me work one-on-one in your business for a whole quarter. We're able to role play situations and scenarios. You can ring me and say, hey, Colin, I'm about to go in to see this property. This is the situation we did on the weekend. How would you handle this offer situation? And you can stop second guessing. You have me one-on-one in your business. Welcome to Advanced Negotiation School. Advanced Negotiation School, I'll run through it very quickly. The premium add-on includes a 1-hour kickstart session. So we're actually putting a blueprint together for your business. Are you predominantly in auctions? Are you predominantly in private treaty? Let's be specific to you. Be specific to you so that we're able to grow and increase your business in 2026. Advanced Negotiation Psychology course. This is the exciting part. This isn't available in the 100 per month BA course. A complete self-paced system that's inside school that teaches you a deeper psychology behind influencing and deal making. We mentioned a very small part of it today, which is tactical empathy. You know, when there's criminals in the world, they bring in the top FBI negotiators and the Australian Federal Police. They bring in people that have been trained for 4 or 5 years, the top negotiators, because they're able to extract information from people and they're able to extract the truth. There are people out there that train for years to do this stuff. Getting into the psychology of getting information from the selling agents, there's a much, much deeper level. You'll learn how to use tactical empathy, how to mirror the selling agents to unlock information, and how to trigger oxytocin, the chemical of trust and connection, to shift any negotiation in your favor. Label a negative instead of walking away from the deal. And this is built from 1,600 real transactions. This course gives you expert psychology frameworks, language patterns, and behavioral cues needed to control the conversation, gain leverage, and to win more deals. Our job is to create leverage, right? We need to be able to provide our clients something that they cannot do themselves. And I don't know any buyer that out there that is going beyond the surface frameworks and using this sort of tactical, but it's out there. As I mentioned, you know, people are brought in these situations to pull truth out of people. There were frameworks that we can use. Custom playbook for your real deals, one-on-one strategy sessions with me per week. So we have that phone call, private messaging support. So you might just be thinking of something and what do I do in this situation? And you can just send me a message. And then we'll do 6 full property appraisal deep dives. So just before we go into the offer situation, you might be second guessing where the value of the property might lie. I mean, of course, there are 2 real values. There's what Data shows us, and then there's the competition value. And both we need to be having conversations with our clients with. But you get me in there as well. Advanced Negotiation School, the investment there is 5,000 per quarter. So that's on top of the 100K a month. Webinar special here today. I can't believe I'm doing this. Take home today, Advanced Negotiation School. So we've got our 2 sets of Advanced Negotiation School starting on the 1st of April and the 1st of July. So our next intake is the 1st of April, and then after that, the 1st of July. You can go into either one of those. That is free for you today. That is free for you today when you sign up for the 100K month playbook. So let's recap. The full playbook, the full online course, and all the frameworks and all of the modules and all of the lessons, plus all the added content from our weekly group coaching calls. The 100K playbook, all of the things that are in there, plus advanced negotiation school with all of the premium add-ons, putting it all together, the 12-month 100K BA month program playbook, plus the advanced negotiation school 3-month program. That's a combined total or yearly total of 14,599. I have to close this off. I really would love for you to understand this. I have to close this off because of the one-on-one component. I can't create magically more time in my day. Because of the one-on-one control and component in this offer, I have to close it off. So I have to close it off by just people on this webinar and by the end of today. I hope you can understand that. But if we're able to make the investment today, for you, today's webinar special for everything that we've just mentioned is 5,280. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, if that's okay with you guys. And I'm going to pop the link where you can learn a little bit more in the chat. Would that be okay with everyone? If you want to learn a little bit more, I've just popped the link in there and I'll leave it there while we run through some Q&As. So for everyone here, what are your questions? What are your questions? What are your thoughts? Any questions? Or have we all gone silent? Or are we all jumped in to sign up? Let's run through and see if we've got any other. Where was the value add for you? Where did you really sort of see value in that? Have I been worth your? We've been here for over 2 hours. Have I been worth your 2 hours? I'm just going to pop that. I'll pop the link in an email for you guys as well. Would that help if I pop the link in an email for you guys? Insight into REA tactics. Are we talking about, I know people use REA as an abbreviation for realestate.com and for real estate agents. Amelia, found it very valuable hearing stories from real deals. I've got so many stories. I have got so many stories. Like, oh God, I've got like 1,600 deals that I've done. And I've got the worst, I've got the nightmares, I've got the quick ones, I've got the easy ones. I've got oh God, let me have a drink. Thanks, Tony. Covered a lot of ground, which is great and really resonated. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. 100%. Great info. Really appreciate it. I'm really glad that it added value. One of the things that I've really wanted to demonstrate here tonight was just that, guys, there is support. There is support, there is help. If you haven't gone onto my free Facebook group already, if you go into Buyers Agents Connect, there's a free Facebook group there that I'm trying to build a growing community there where we're just able to support each other. It's what I really feel is missing in the industry. Just, buyers, good people learning from good people, right? Do you offer anything in your courses or generating leads? Great question. Look, I used to generate and create a lot of leads. The simple answer to your question is there's not a no, is the simple answer to your question. But I'm working with a client at the moment and I'm happy to give you some options. And there are some things in the first module in regards to finding out who you are as a buyer, who you are as an agent and what buyers you want to attract. And I'm working with a client at the moment and I gave her some advice around generating leads and it was happy to share this with you guys as well. As an agent, as a selling agent, I was bombarded by hundreds of emails a day. I had BAs in my inbox. Have you got any buyers? I had BAs calling me. It got frustrating. It got annoying. Not only that, I had building and pest companies refer us. I had pool safety certificate people, as well as trying to do my job and negotiate and deal with the dollar value productive activities. If you're just trying to reach out to agents for referrals and for buyers, don't do it in their email inbox. They are bombarded. You are going to be disregarded straight away. jump into social media, jump into Instagram, jump into Facebook, find the agents in there because their DMs, I promise you, are empty. They are empty. If you're using or trying to find leads through a real estate agent, and I always like to, when a property is sold, I always like to go to that agent, or especially if I've had a dealing with that agent, and I say, "How many buyers did you have offer on that property?" Oh, we might have 4 offers. Buyers miss out on that home. Okay, great. Would you mind, having the conversation with me about those buyers, and then offer a referral? But to do that, the best place to do that is through social media because their DMs are empty. You're gonna just be in a field of chaos in their inbox. When you're in their DMs, you're catching them on their break. You're catching them in their downtime, and they're actually giving your message value. So one of my students used this strategy, and she literally arranged with brokers and real estate agents like 5 coffees in a week. In a week. And those are 5 opportunities that she can build trust and build relationships with brokers and real estate agents. So to answer your question, no, there's nothing in the course, but I do have ideas, like heaps of ideas. I'm also working with a gentleman who's helping me generate leads through sponsored ads on Meta and Facebook and things like that. And in one of our Buyers Agent Connect programs, I also had an agent in there, and she was finding huge success. She wasn't finding much success with the brokers and the agents, but she was finding huge success with being on Google and getting that help and advice with her website and things like that. So look, there are definitely strategies and things that we can discuss and talk about generating leads. But specifically that there's not a lot in there. I'm going to be honest. Any other questions, or are we finishing up? Am I still working as a BA? Kind of. So, for 17 years buying and selling, it's a long time. It's a very long time. I wouldn't say I'm an active BA, but I think in 2025, what I started to really enjoy was supporting and helping. I was able to take my knowledge and my expertise and really pour it into other people. That is what really, after 17 years of actually being in the trenches and transacting, I found my new excitement was being able to share my knowledge and supporting it with other people. So, am I still transacting? Yes. Um, we are, but only repeat clients, referral clients. So I might only do 1 transaction a quarter now, Vern. Only people that I want to actually work with because I don't want the headache of all the other stuff. How big is the group, Sarah? I think you're referring to maybe the course, for example. Sarah, we've only got a couple of people in there. Complete transparency. I am completely new. My level of expertise, obviously 17 years and things like that. We have just started. I have just finished completing the course the back end of last year. So it was about September time last year that, I was reaching out and helping so many BAs that I found that the gap that needs to be filled with support is huge. It's not for everyone, but for the people that wanted it and needed it and would like it was huge. So it was only the back end of last year I decided to build out the program. And it's only really January that I've started getting out there and letting people aware that, hey, this is an option. We're here for you and we're able to support you. Is that okay, Sarah? 2. Do you think it would be still worth it if you don't have a high volume of clients yet? Good question. The support and all of the pillars behind the lessons that we teach is what's going to be able to provide you with confidence. I might even say that by the time you get busy and by the time you get the clients on, it's probably too late because then you're chasing your tail, right? You've already got the clients on. So then you're working through like an online course, and that's probably going to take you about 8 weeks. There's a lot of lessons in there. I would say it's the good time to get on board now because then it provides you with the skill and the confidence to hit the ground running when you do have 2, 3, or 4 clients on. I might argue that by the time you get 2 or 3 clients on every single month, it's probably going to be too late. Build that confidence, build that knowledge, build that system. Like build that system so that when they do come, as I mentioned to yourself earlier, all of my previous principals were saying like, take on assistance, take on assistance. They were telling me to do it before they actually needed it, because that was able to build the momentum and the confidence to really move forward. I hope that's helped. Have we got many people still on? We do. All right. Any further questions? I know you might be a little bit tired now, but look, I'm more than happy to stay here. I'm actually having a lot of fun with you guys. So, hey, Colin, would love to chat about an opportunity for both of us to collaborate. Can you call me tomorrow, or would you call me? I'm going to take a screenshot of that. That's perfectly fine. Happy to do that. Happy to do that. We'll reach out tomorrow. Easy. How big will I allow the course to get, as in massive, or keep it relatively small? Sorry for the questions. I want to keep it quality. I want to keep it quality. And I was asked this question the other day because the free group on Buyers Agent Connect on Facebook and the lives that we do on a weekly basis, it's got quite big. And when you have big groups, you don't have quality. You just don't. And when you've got something free in front of you, you don't value it either. So you're not going to work towards it. I find that when you've got a little bit of an investment in something, you work towards it. How big do I want to get it? Look, I've got to eat, but I want to keep it. I want to keep it quality. If I was only getting maybe 2 or 3 people in there every single month, I think I'd be happy with that. And over a year, if I was able to keep that consistency, that's under 50. I don't know if that's my number, but yeah. Hope that's helped clear that up, Sarah. As in quality or quantity? I want quality. I want the right people. I do want the right people. If you jump on into the link, it will help you answer some of those questions. I'll pop the link in here again. And if you check your inbox, you might, the power of automation. I've just learned how to automate emails. As I said, I'm just an agent. I'm not a webinar specialist, but I've just popped the link in there again. There's a little bit more information, but the power of automation, you should have an email in there as well. I really want to keep it. I really want to keep it quality. I want to have the right people, Sarah. I'll be honest with you. If I'm seeing people in the group that are bringing others down, I won't be afraid to cut them off and give them a refund. I'm not about taking people's money. I want the right people in there. And I think that's a great question. You know, if you're going to be joining the group, Sarah, you want to know who you're surrounding yourself with. It's not just going to be myself. So yeah, great question. Yeah. Are you a good sales agent? I loved it. I was what I loved most was putting the deal together. That's where I thrived. So when I was working in London in the UK, a completely different module to how things work in Australia. All we did was put the transaction together. So that's why negotiation is my passion, rather than the whole, you know, when you're a sudden agent, you're prospecting, you're door knocking, you're building a business, you're building marketing, all that kind of stuff. Like I just all I wanted to do was put the deal together. But if I didn't find sellers, I had no one to put the deal together for. When I was in London, I was putting together 20 to 25 deals every single month because we were working as a business, as a group, as an agency. So great question. Were you a good sales agent? I hated the lead side of stuff. I hated the prospecting side of stuff. I had to shift my mindset when I was in London to Australia. In London, I was an employee, £17,000 a year as a real estate agent. Okay, a year, £17,000 a year as a real estate agent, and you're an employee. And I had to really shift my mindset from employee to business owner. It's not an easy mindset to shift. Putting the deal together, I transacted on I think my success rate over 12 years at Ray White and Kalashi was 98%. I never used to let a seller not sell. That was my goal. That was what I enjoyed, and that is what I absolutely loved. Amelia, thanks, Colin, for sharing your insights. I'm going to call it a night. Amelia, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you. Thank you, and I hope we shared a little bit of value for you here tonight. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Need another drink. Anything else I can help with? I think I'm sold. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up. Is that okay with everybody? Lisa, Kelly, awesome. Tony, appreciate it. Thank you, guys. We're going to wrap it up. Most of you have my number, my Instagram, my Facebook. I'm here for you. I'd love to support you. So this isn't goodbye. This is just I'll see you later. But guys, I am logging off for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk again soon.